And welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Peter Winnick. I'm the founder and CEO of Thought Leadership Leverage. And you're joining us on the podcast today, which is Leveraging Thought Leadership. My guest today is Leslie M., who is the swagger coach. She's a Wall Street Journal, USA Today, and Amazon #1 best-selling author and speaker. She has spent decades traveling the globe. Let's see what else we have here. Her newer book is Swagger, Unleash Everything You Are and Become Everything You Want. But I wanted to get to this stuff. She's been called Better Than Therapy, a rock star, ass kicking, a force of nature, and then a witch. So it's almost like which one of those don't belong, but I guess you could be all of those. So welcome aboard, Leslie.
Hi, this is
Do
going
I
to be
call
so
you
much
witch,
fun.
Leslie, or do I?
You can, yeah, that's okay. I'll take it. Listen, I owned it. I repeated it on my bio because I loved it. I love that someone called me a witch.
That's fantastic. Great. So interesting. I mean, you and I had a great conversation the other day, and we talked about your business, talked about the book, all that sort of stuff. So let me start with sort of one of my semi-favorite questions is, how the hell did you get here? So how did this all happen to be where we are here today? Because it's typically non-linear, non-logical. Like, how the hell did this all happen?
Oh, sure. How far back do you want me to go?
Well, we got 20 minutes.
Oh, okay. Well, my background is not this. It's not this at all. I was a TV host. I was a script editor and a script doctor. I was a musician for many years. And then I kind of made the leap into the more formal business world. And I ended up working in advertising. I was an advertising creative director. But I found very quickly that I couldn't really help my people from the inside. There was so much pressure to produce and perform. And as you know, creative directors are very much working leaders. They're hardcore, they're expected to deliver and so on. And I found that took all my time. And my people were struggling and suffering. And I found that I was being changed by the environment. And I couldn't find training to help them. People didn't understand our world. Advertising people are very smart ass. They're very smart. They're, they're the great manipulators of the world. So if you're going to try and train them, you better be A game. And I could not find anybody to do that. And I came home and said to my husband one day, I feel like I'm using my superpowers for evil instead of good. And I think I'm going to quit my job and start a training company. And he says, what? Excuse me, what? What? He said, Leslie, you hate training. And you're also untrainable. I was like, right? Who better to start a training company than someone like me? Because if I can create experiences for my mindset, I'll probably be onto something. And I had no idea what I was doing other than being highly creative, having grown up with parents who owned a summer camp. So I was used to working with big groups and I was super comfortable with that. And I'd always been a writer and I was a performer. So I was like, what else do I need? I have subject matter expertise. Let's go. So
this is the classic entrepreneurial journey of solving a problem that definitely existed in your mind, and clearly, because of the success of the company, existed in others. And it reminds me of, I did a turnaround in 2004 for a communication consulting firm, and my buddy was leading the firm, and we had cocktails one day and he wanted me to come on board. And I was like, dude, A, I have no interest in training. B, I think it's like, I can't sit through anything. Everything I've sat through is just total crapola.
Drivel.
And I think most of the people in that business are like C players. Maybe by accident, there's a B player now. And then why do I want to do this? And then it was a really interesting opportunity from a turnaround perspective. But I think that outsider's perspective of, God, why does training need to suck? Why does it need to be torturous? Why can't you hit me where I am, which is maybe a little ADD, but very creative, very smart.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever. Don't talk to me like I'm an idiot.
Well, I think that the way that I approached it was, one of the reasons that I think training is so crappy is because it's delivered by trainers, and those trainers are not subject matter experts. So what do they know? I mean, they've learned the rule book and they've learned the game plan, but when shit gets real in the room, they're at a loss because they haven't lived it and breathed it and done it and experienced it. So for us, what I said was, I'm not going to hire trainers. I'm going to hire subject matter experts and turn them into trainers in the combustion mold, which is 100% real, no bullshit. It's irreverent, it's direct, it's soulful, but it's practical. I said, I want people to be able to do their jobs better and differently the next day. Like I
So that's
want
an
them to,
interesting
the next
approach.
day.
Most training organizations, it's changing. There was this skill set called the trainer, and you
Mhm.
could sort of plug in anything into the trainer, and they could deliver the training, right? Because they had the classroom chops and could be engaging and blah blah blah
Yeah.
blah. And for the most part, they didn't know much about anything, right? And then
Yeah.
what you're saying is, let me get someone that knows the something, and
Yeah.
then I can just develop whatever capabilities
Yeah.
that they need, room management, time management, whatever.
But there's something magical and special to me about what I was looking for in a trainer. That's why I grew very, very small. I've had people push me to try and grow and grow and grow. I was like, nope,
Sure.
because I can only grow to the point that I can find the right kind of people to be combustion training. Like if I can't find those people, I can't grow. And so it took years to build this amazing group of people who are hardcore experts in their field and who have that soulful, irreverent, super
Sure.
engaging quality. It's like they're few and far between. But that's why we do what we do. That's why people love us.
Interesting. So that's a great story. So tell me a little bit about the book from the standpoint of you're busy. Why does someone wake up one day, or maybe it was more than a day? So I'm going to write a book, and then what's the process been like? So tell us what the genesis was, and what the process and what you've learned along the way.
While I was in all of those rooms that I was in around the world, and it didn't matter the country, the culture, the company, didn't matter the level of profession, whether it was CEO down to
Mm-hmm.
kind of new entrants. When you're doing skills building,
Mm-hmm.
but you have this soulful irreverence at the core of it. One of my approaches was always to try and crack the human open and kind of get the good stuff that was on the inside because I
Mm-hmm.
understood that that was really what their superpowers were. And what I discovered about everybody pretty much was that at their core, people did not believe that they could reveal who they really were and still find the success that they wanted. They just didn't believe that they were good enough in their raw and real form to have the credibility that they felt that they needed. And I knew this to be the absolute opposite.
Mm-hmm.
I'd seen it happen countless times where people would step out of their shells and into themselves, and everybody would lose their minds, and then they would tell me that their lives had changed and so on. And I realized that for all of the skills building, all of the layers of this new learning and knowledge that you're piling on top of people, if the foundation is shaky, it ain't going to work. It's all
Right.
going to crumple.
Yeah.
And the person is not really going to be able to internalize these new skills and own them like a badass, like believe that they're worthy of these skills and know how to
Mm-hmm.
then take them and go wild with them. And so when
You
I
almost
when
have
I
to
realized
deconstruct
that,
it a little bit, right? You have to sort of deconstruct the person a little bit to
yeah,
get to the
yeah,
to the
because
foundation.
if they're holding themselves back, all the training in the world isn't going to work.
Right.
It's,
Right.
because they're holding themselves back. So when I realized that, I was like, oh, okay. I know what the secret is because I've been working with people for what, 14 years. I
Sure.
understand what's holding people back. I've seen it countless times and I have countless stories. And I thought,
Mm-hmm.
I can't clone myself. So the only thing that I can do to try and change the world, which is really what I want to do because I'm a big sucky altruist, I thought, okay, I'm going to write a book. So that's what I did. And it took me 3 years. There were a lot of ups
Okay.
and downs in that process. My mom got really sick and passed away in the
Mhm.
middle of that. I lost my creative mojo, all of that stuff. Um, but when all of that stuff was kind of dealt with and I could refocus, the last bit just kind of gushed out of me and finished it in December 2019. And then it went to edits in February 2020. And then, hello, pandemic.
Right.
But, ironically, in retrospect, I think it was the best timing ever because this book is needed today now more than ever. The time is so right for this book. So the process has been painful and magical, like, as you and I talked about.
If you're enjoying this episode of Leveraging Thought Leadership, please make sure to subscribe. If you'd like to help spread the word about our podcast, please leave us a review and share it with your friends. We're available on Apple Podcast and on all major listening apps, as well as at thoughtleadershipleverage.com/podcasts.
For as torturously difficult as writing a book is, and I say this as a writer, so I can't even imagine how people write books who
Right.
are writers. for as torturous as it was, launching a book is 1,000 times harder.
So stay there a minute, because I always feel like, not always, but more often than I'd prefer, the grumpy old dude in the room, right? So someone's telling me how hard it is to write a book, when they're in the process, and I'm like,
just
yeah,
you wait.
yeah. You think that's the tough part, Sparky? Yeah, right. Not to diminish what it takes to put out a high quality book, because that takes work. I mean, real work. And there's a lot of garbage out there that you can tell has been phoned in, right? So there's a plethora of noise, right? But you've marketed before, you've sold before. So tell me about that, because getting a book out into marketplace, and we can get into all the data. The average business book sells 1,800 units and nobody reads past page 18 and all this other stuff. But I mean, ultimately what you're fighting for is not $20 or $25 from somebody, but it's like, whoa, time out, take a deep breath and give me your attention for some period of time. If they buy the book and read it, it's probably 5, 6, 7 hours. But how do you sort of shake them by the proverbial shoulders and say, take a look at me, this is interesting, this could help you?
Well, I made lots of choices along the way, both from a content perspective and then from a packaging perspective. The book is sweary, which a lot of people said, "Oh, don't do it. In your business book." I was like, because this is who I am. This is the way I operate in the world, and the book is about being real. So if I wasn't going to be real in the process, then whatever. I also made some.
But hold on, stay there a second. So whether it's language or whatever it is, but there's an authenticity. Sometimes I've seen people write a book and they're incredibly funny or engaging or charming or whatever, and then you read some of the stuff they've written, you're like,
what happened?
Like, you took out, this is like my favorite dish, and you took out all the flavor. Like why did you do that? And then people get into this, oh, well, I'm writer mode, so I'm going to write like Mr. or Miss Writer would write. And so
the commitment that I made to myself when I started to write, and again, remember, I'm an advertising copywriter and a script editor, script doctor. So I got some writing chops, which makes it even more stressful, because you want to respect that process of being a writer. But for me, the thing that was the most important was that the book felt the same as it did when you talked to me. That it really felt the same. And that I held on to my voice so strongly and so passionately, and I wouldn't let anyone move me or shift me from that. And I also, there's a couple of other things that I did. I don't know if this is helpful, but any books or any writers who were kind of in my vein or in my space, I did not read them. I actively did not read them. If I was worried that there might be too much overlap of content, I made my poor husband read them or skim them and tell me whether there was overlap, because I didn't want anybody else's words or voice in my head. I didn't want to question whether my ideas were original and valid, because they are. So I didn't want that insecurity and, mind screw. And I didn't have anyone read the book until it was done. I didn't have a reader. Like a lot of people they'll find a person or two that they really trust and say, tell me what you think. And as we go, I did not have that. I wanted it to be complete as an entity. And only then did I give it to 2 different people. And I asked them for very specific feedback. Not like, here's my book, tell me what you think, which you should never do.
So stay there for a minute, because I don't know that there is a right way or a wrong way. There's a right way for you. So I've worked with folks that every step of the way, there's almost the committee, right? And and the problem with that, I mean, there are benefits to that, where if it's the right group of right domain experts and expertise or whatever that can help you get your game up, great. Oftentimes committees don't have their own egos and their own crap.
Of course.
Somebody's trying to be the loudest guy in the room, and then somebody's just trying to make a point for making the point. There are other times when people don't show anything to anybody till the end, and then a couple of people look and go, oh, geez, I wish I would have seen this 6 months ago.
Well, this is why you have an editor. You want an editor, right? So, I have a relationship with my editor. My editor saw it. But I am someone who does not live my life based on external validation. So for me, it was I didn't want to carry other people's baggage, because it's all about perspective. And it's also, who is your perfect audience? Everyone says, give it to someone who's your perfect audience. Well, if they know me, they're not my perfect audience, because they know me. So they're already biased. There's no such thing unless I find some random stranger off the street. And even then it's like advertising. I did focus groups for years. Never trust a focus group. It's the same thing. So when I did ask for feedback, all I asked for was, does this sound like me? That was my question. Does
Hmm.
this sound like me? And the response was, oh my God, it's like you're talking in my ear. It's the exact same as sitting next to you. I was like, good, thank you. I'm out. Now I'll go work with my editor, who I trust implicitly. And her job is to make sure that it is super cohesive. But again, I was a script editor. So I know about structure and form and
Hmm.
narrative and stuff. So I came from a place of advantage. So
Sure.
that was that, my language, my choices, all that
Yep.
kind of stuff. Then it was also, how am I going to package it?
Hmm.
And I worked with a designer who knew me very well. I actually didn't use the designer from page two, the cover designer. I went with someone who knew me very well. And when they gave me the very first design, I cried and went, that's my book. And I didn't. It was funny because the book is hot pink and like hot
Right.
pink and neon yellow, right? Which is quite female. And the book is
Right.
not for women particularly. It's for everyone. It's equal, equally appropriate
Sure.
for men and women. So I had a moment where it was like, is this
Oh, did I
hot
actually write a
pink?
chick book or something?
Is this going to look too chicky? And then I was like, no, because the book's called Swagger, and I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to trust that it's going to speak what it needs to speak. It took me 2 years to come up with my subtitle as well. 2 years, advertising copywriter, and it took me 2 years. That, I think, was the hardest thing of writing the entire book, was coming up with the subtitle. But I think all of these choices now, I trusted my instincts, but the feedback that I've gotten is, oh my God, this book, the cover, oh my God, it pops. Oh my God, the title, like, I made good choices is
Sure.
what I'm saying. I made good choices, and it certainly stands apart. It does not feel like your average business book. And the feedback that I'm getting is, it is blowing my
But,
mind.
but
It is
go,
blowing my
go back
mind.
to the marketing though for a minute,
Yeah.
because I want to understand. You're no stranger to marketing, given the advertising background. What were one or two things that really really surprised you? Because a lot of people I've seen that have been amazing marketers at other things,
Yeah.
B2B, product, technology, whatever. Like, oh, well, a book's a product. Here's marketing 101. Here's 50 things I've done before in marketing. And then they apply it to a book and it's like
It doesn't
crickets.
work. Yeah. Yeah. So nobody cares. And you have to start really with your tribe. You got to tap into your
Yeah,
tribe. One of the things that I learned, that was the hardest lesson for me ever, is that I'm not someone who's really good at asking for help, and I
sure.
had to ask for a lot of help with this book. You've got to ask people, because launching a book really is about sphere of influence. And it starts off with the word of mouth, and do you trust someone's opinion, and this is a great book, and all the rest of it. So having a mailing list of people that are vetted. It's not, you're not just pissing into the wind, but having your people, who are supporting you, and then reaching out to everybody that who has some influence in some way, shape, or form, and asking for that kind of support and endorsement. And then slowly, kind of inexorably building on that. But you better start doing that 6 months before you launch the book. Don't
Yeah,
you don't wait
and
until the
that's
book is
really
out.
all about the relationship with fellow authors, thought leaders,
Yeah.
speakers, etc., that already have the tribe. Because to build a tribe from scratch is really, really, really
Yeah.
hard. And it's not that you don't have business colleagues that follow you and clients and all this other sort of stuff, but it's very, very different than someone that's been at this space for 10 years, maybe written a book or two or whatever, and has a following. And the trick is to engage with those folks,
Yeah.
right? And,
Yeah.
and sort of ride their proverbial coattails a bit.
And also be prepared to pay it back, paid forward, all the rest of it. I say
Yeah,
that
totally,
if
totally.
if you have ever asked anybody to endorse your book, then at the very least, you must endorse two other people's books within the 6 months after your book is released, or you're an asshole. You know,
Exactly.
you've got to, and you've got to keep. I think it's
But
like,
I find that the community or the tribe, you will, if you will, of authors, speakers, thought leaders, etc., are really, really generous. There's a couple
oh,
of out there like
so
any field, but
so generous.
everybody's been there, done that, and they can look at you and go, "Oh, I was there," or "When I was
Yeah.
there," or "Oh, I'm totally glad to help because I dig your stuff." And people are, I think, more so than almost any other profession I've been around,
Right.
there's this collegial, ooh, secret handshake, wink, wink. What can I do to help? And let me go
Yeah.
introduce you to three of my friends. And
Yeah.
it's this freewheel of
It's been like this daisy chain of love. I mean,
yeah,
I've had all of these people kind of pulling me up along with them. And then I've been reaching back to people who are, launch books 6 months after me, and holding
yeah,
onto their hands and lifting them
exactly.
up. And it's a beautiful thing. I mean, it really, It really is a beautiful thing. And it's funny because a lot of people would think, oh, authors, they're competitive and the egos and
Yeah,
whatever. It's the freaking opposite. It's the absolute opposite. It's like no one's going to help you more than someone who's got a business book just like yours. No one's going to help you more.
exactly. Well, this has been great. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today. I love the boldness of the cover, which would make sense because I wouldn't expect a book called Swagger to be in like business blue and whatever. But this has been awesome. Thanks for sharing your experience with us today,
Oh,
Leslie.
it's been this can't be our last time. It was too good.
No, there you
We
go.
have to do it again.
Of course. Thank you.
Okay. Anytime. It was my pleasure.
To learn more about Thought Leadership Leverage, please visit our website at thoughtleadershipleverage.com. To reach me directly, feel free to email me at peter@thoughtleadershipleverage.com. And please subscribe to Leveraging Thought Leadership on iTunes or your favorite podcast app to get your weekly episode automatically.